The biggest question obviously comes down to whether or not your life or your financial situation, your family situation was better when Trump was in presidency or when Biden and Harris were in their administration. And you think it's better to have a black person in government or a Jewish person or Italian or a Hispanic or whatever, then that makes no sense. It doesn't matter what color, skin, person, gender that person is. If they're literally taking more money from you and your family, giving it to the government, which you don't know how they manage that money, and then sending it off wherever they want to at any given day, they literally robbed you and made someone else rich somewhere else and not taking care of you at all. It's provided you nothing positive. Hopefully, you choose based, maybe if you're undecided and you hear my points and you make the informed decision, you understand that when you're making a vote this year, you're making a vote not only for the future of the next 4 years, but the long term of what is acceptable and what's not in terms of the American way. What's up everybody? Simon here. On this episode of The Ideal Hour, we're going to do something different today. We're going to talk about this election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. I'm going to give you who are maybe undecided, my thoughts on which direction I'll be voting, what you may want to consider, and also kind of go over some of the things that both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have proposed. Now, election time is the craziest time of the year. These people get very dirty with their politics, their ads, and so forth. But for me, what really matters, and I think what should matter for anyone that's here in America, that's been paying taxes, that's been raising their family and so forth, is what is the candidate overall going to do for you versus what does the candidate look like? What does the candidate say that may offend you? Does the candidate have orange hair and is chubby? Is the candidate black or Indian or whatever descent? None of that really matters. It's about the plan of the country going forward. So we're going to look at Kamala Harris's plan. We're going to compare it to Donald Trump's economic plan. And we're going to look at how that impacts workers. And I'll give you my 2 cents on kind of what I think about this whole thing. So first and foremost, Harris and Walz. Walz kind of freaks me out a little bit. The guy's weird. Recently, there's a video of him claiming that, Elon Musk out here is jumping like a lunatic on stage and so forth, yet he does the same thing. He's not happy that obviously Elon Musk is supporting Donald Trump. And on top of that, I don't think none of them are. You have a big financial backing coming in that is trying to change the course of the direction of the election. And a lot of other billionaires are not pleased. And in fact, Elon Musk recently on the Tucker Carlson show has said he thinks that a lot of people that are wealthy do not want Trump to win because it could mean problems for them in terms of what they may have done with the Epstein list and the client list and all these other things that they may be hiding skeletons in their closet.
I think part of why Kamala's getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Gates.
And Gates.
As you could see in this clip, he literally says, a lot of billionaires are worried about whether Trump gets elected or not. Then there's the whole thing of Trump being prosecuted. If he wins, I assume that may go away. If he loses, they're going to stick him to the stake and continue it. Obviously, I think it's politically driven. No man at that age goes that many years without really having any type of crime. And then all of a sudden, all these cases in all these areas are thrown at him to encourage him to drop out. And he kept fighting. And what's scary is he's right. If they could do that to him, a former president, and not be ashamed that they're shaming the country, the presidential seat, what can they do to individuals that are not of that power, that don't have the financial backing or the support of the population? That's really scary. So to me, what I really truly value about Donald Trump is a few key things. One is his business acumen or his economic policies. I feel like he doesn't want to just give money away. He doesn't want war to continue. He doesn't want to tax us on capital gains and tax us heavier and more, because the government doesn't do well with the money they collect from you, in my opinion. And they continue to pay themselves more and give themselves raises without ever having to worry about shortfalls, balancing budgets, failing, or any of that. They're just going to keep collecting. And the biggest question obviously comes down to whether or not your life or your financial situation, your family situation was better when Trump was in presidency or when Biden and Harris were in their administration and Biden is the president. And obviously the finances could not have been better because cost of inflation, it's up, they say 8-10%, but it's like 20%. The grocery store price is up even 40%. They say the single most expensive cart or car to fill up is the grocery cart. That's really what it is. So the interest rates aren't better, 7%, 6% versus 2.75% to 3.5%. Insurance costs have gone through the roof. A lot of insurances have started dropping out during this Biden-Harris administration. Energy costs have gone through the roof here in California. The costs, they started trying to charge you based on your income, which is ridiculous, not the amount of power you use, which is very socialistic. You could dig deeper on each candidate, by the way, to see their mentality. For example, Kamala's father was a professor with Marxist beliefs, I have read. Trump is kind of an all-American type thing, the American dream. Fuel costs, that's another thing, have gone up. In California, it's the worst, and it's probably going to go up even higher. I've seen it as high as $7.50 here, which is crazy. Let's talk about world wars and things that are happening around the world. I mean, we've got Russia and Ukraine war. There was no war during the Trump administration. Trump also had to deal with the pandemic during that time, which slowed him down from dealing with other policies. And hopefully nothing like this gets released again from, Wuhan or anywhere else. And he had to deal with that, but there was no wars. Now there's an Israeli war with Lebanon, with their country surrounding all this terrorism that they've been brewing. And it doesn't seem like there's an end to any of it. And with Donald Trump, we didn't have that. And I think that's important to point out. But here's a fun fact. Kamala Harris's economic policies, I think this is where it affects you and me and everybody else in the country, right? Capital gains tax. Okay, Kamala Harris policies aren't going to be good for you or your family if you feel like you can't afford to pay for groceries now or feed a family of multiple members. She proposes increasing the capital gains tax to 28% for individuals that make over $1 million annually, up from 20%. So that's an 8% increase.
If you earn $1 million a year or more, the tax rate on your long-term capital gains will be 28%.
And you go, well, I don't make $1 million annually, so why does it affect me? Well, the people that do make $1 million annually, they're going to have to start cutting costs somewhere. So they're going to put it on the average employee, whether they need to now lay off people to cut back 8% of that fee that they lose, but they're going to start cutting their businesses. The small businesses, the business owners that make, in excess of $1 million a year in profits, they're going to have to cut back. And they have a different lifestyle. They're going to have to maintain that lifestyle and so forth. Of course, the 28% is lower than the Biden's proposed nearly 40% of 36.6, but that's a significant increase, okay? The corporate tax, which is also going to kill Kamala Harris's plan because, and really has me leaning towards Trump, the corporate tax she wants to increase as well from 21 to 28%, which is very similar to Biden. So Kamala Harris has been known on paper to say we are the same administration, and she tries to distance herself from the administration. It is not working, right? They're the same type of, I would feel like almost like a puppet, the same machine. And that's what Elon Musk said. He's going against the machine. He's not going against one candidate. And I truly feel that way too. I feel like there's a group at play controlling people, and that group is the one that's really calling all these shots and sending money overseas, etc. I mean, we've got problems here in America, why don't they send help for North Carolina, for Florida, for all these places, for the homeless situation, for the veterans, you name it, children in need? No, they're sending money overseas. That's more important. It's the craziest thing. The corporate tax rate being increased from 21 to 28% is going to affect a lot of layoffs. So people are going to lose their jobs. You're going to increase another 10% of what a business is spending. Now, what really is happening is a business owner may have a partner or two in the business, but remember, there's that third partner, almost nearly 30%, nearly a third of all of your income goes to the government, your third partner, or your fourth. And it really becomes a problem. They're going to have to, the 7% increase is going to have to get cut somewhere, and they're going to cut it with the employees. So I don't agree with that. The wealth tax for billionaires and minimum, she backs a 25% minimum tax on those with over 100 million in wealth. And she thinks that this is a great idea, that these people that make over $100 million are going to be able to just give their money away and afford it, and you're not going to be affected. Well, you are going to be affected because, again, they're going to cut their spending somehow. They're going to either cut their spending, which means less buying in the market. They're going to lay off extra employees, which saves them so they could have a higher income on their own W-2. They're going to cut costs. So the government taking more money from individuals or businesses to give more money to Ukraine is not a solution for you. In fact, it's going to impact you in a negative way. It may benefit Zelensky or someone else outside. Now, comment below if you disagree. I don't mind it. I think that's what the beauty of America is. It's freedom of speech. You can voice these opinions, and you should be able to have a constructive argument, say what's right and what's wrong, and we could justify it, right? Apparently, a few years ago, you couldn't even do that. Now it's starting to open up. Even Facebook have said they had to hide stuff that was factual from people at the request of the government, which is crazy. So censorship, but you should be able to debate it. So comment below and do so. All right, economic impact. Harris's tax increase on wealthy individuals and corporations could result in market volatility, reduced investment, slower wage growth, potential layoffs, and hiring freezes. This is actually a summary that I've gotten after plugging these numbers into ChatGPT. That's what it spit out as well. The wealth redistribution may address inequality, but I doubt it. Again, not everyone's meant to be a mega millionaire, but the millionaires are not going to allow the government to just take more money without cutting costs somewhere. Neither are these corporations. Now, if you compare this with Donald Trump's economic plan, are much better in my opinion, and this is why I'm also voting for him, so he wins in this regard. His capital gains tax, he supports cutting it to 15%, which was 20% before.
We would like to bring our business tax rate down to around 15%. That's a tremendous drop.
Again, you got more money in the market, more decisions being made, cars being bought, investments being made. He's clearly on the side of, hey, let's have the government control less money. Let's give it back to the people so they could take care of their families, invest properly, invest in real estate, etc. Win for Donald Trump. You don't want to increase capital gains. They were also talking about increasing capital gains before your realized gains, which means you didn't sell and make any money, but they would tax you, pre-tax you on it, which is crazy. It encourages more investments, by stocks and businesses when you have less capital gains, period. And if you don't like that, and you think it's better to have a black person in government or a Jewish person or an Italian or a Hispanic or whatever, then that makes no sense. It doesn't matter what color, skin, person, gender that person is. If they're literally taking more money from you and your family, giving it to the government, which you don't know how they manage that money, and then sending it off wherever they want to at any given day, they literally robbed you and made someone else rich somewhere else and not taken care of you at all. They've provided you nothing positive. So less taxes, better. Trump wins that. Corporate tax. This is where I love Trump again. Trump pushed for a major corporate tax cut, okay? reducing the rate from 35% to 21% as part of his 2017 tax cuts. This is according to Investopedia. He's also supporting a corporate tax cut rate to 15% across the board. This will incentivize companies to invest in new technology, invest in manufacturing, invest in hiring. Their budgets are going to be much bigger. I mean, if a company is doing $100 million a year and you're giving them $10 million back, that's a lot of salaries. That's a lot of investments they can make in terms of helping others out. So you're going 6%, so 21 to 5, 6%, so $6 million back. That's a lot. It's just a lot of money that they could reinvest into technology, furniture, buildings, you name it. Every single spectrum of business, there's your job right there. Marketing. I mean, you've got an incentive. You got one person, Donald Trump, who's saying, hey, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to allow the corporate businesses, corporations, small businesses, big businesses, individuals to have more money so they can have an easier time paying for all of their expenses, all of their rent, everything that goes with an entrepreneur and a business owner, and even bigger, from small scale to large, so they can invest back into the American economy. And then you got another individual that says, no, I'm going to raise and prohibit you from having more money, small business, and I'm going to take that money and I'm going to send it out wherever I need to send it, or create programs that may not need to be out there. And there are many, by the way. After comparing the two tax cuts between Trump's tax cuts from 21 to 15% corporate tax, capital gains tax by 5%, and Kamala Harris's increases, I said, ChatGPT, give me your idea on this. And I plugged in some numbers. Trump's economic philosophy centers on supply side of economics, aiming to stimulate the economy growth through tax cuts for businesses and individuals. By reducing taxes, companies will reinvest in their operation, hire more workers, increase wages, driving overall economic growth. Now, that's the two differences that I think are the most important. And the impact on workers, supporters of Trump's plan argue that lowering taxes can boost investment and lead to more robust job creation and growth. Critics argue that the benefits will favor the wealthy, but again, there is no favor of the wealthy when you're taking money from the wealthy, having them cut the middle people and the lower income people out to save money, and then giving that money not to the lower people or the middle people, but actually giving that money overseas. That's not a benefit. So the key differences is Harris's plan wants to increase taxation on wealthy. She does state there'll be social programs and so forth. Trump feels that the approach of money is better handled with the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the people that do a great job at balancing budgets. And this will drive and stimulate the economy. This will help for retirement savings. This will help corporate behavior to hire more people. This will reduce layoffs. And that's the plan I'm going with. I think Kamala Harris's plan will actually cause more layoffs, will cause less investments, will cause less businesses to flourish, even though she has this business plan of allowing a $50,000 or so credit for small businesses. A lot of small businesses aren't even profitable in the first few years. So that is something to note. So that won't drive any potential growth during her 4 years or 8 years. All right, let's talk about how this impacts GDP growth, okay? Or the GDP growth between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. And I say the Biden because Harris was part of it. Let's not distance ourselves too far. Biden and Harris were one, and Trump and Pence were another at that time. When Trump was in government as president, the GDP growth was about 2.5% annually from 2017 to 19, driven by corporate tax cuts. This assures our first point that I've made, which means that if you do cut corporate tax cuts, you do cut personal taxes, you're going to stimulate the economy, and that's what he did. Now, of course, the economy with 2020 pandemic had a big contraction, but then and it boomed with Biden's rehiring of those jobs. And I know the Biden-Harris administration ran that they did such a great job, but it was just, there were so many potential job losses during the pandemic that a lot of people were rehired. And the GDP supposedly rebounded at 3.1% from the losses. Trump's jobs and unemployment. And I do want to say that's not the same thing. One had actual growth. The other, Biden, didn't. It was like a fake growth, in my opinion, where you're really just re-adding jobs. But if you look at the economy overall, the GDP has not grown and the unemployment rates have not gotten better. Trump's administration saw a record low unemployment of 3.6% across all boards, including the Black and Latino population, the Asian population, you name it. He had one of the best economies as a president ever, okay? But at the start of the pandemic, obviously unemployment soared with companies starting to shut down and small businesses starting to shut down. You have to question, was the pandemic intentional to really hinder Trump's presidency? All right. Was it released in China, as they've now said it got released from the Wuhan coronavirus lab, as if that's not a indicator? Was it released on purpose to quail the Hong Kong protesters when China tried to assume Hong Kong and there was millions of people protesting? We don't know, right? It's all speculative, but the timing of it all was very odd. Trump's unemployment during that time jumped to 14% in 2020 and ended at 6.4% before Biden took it over. Now, of course, they're claiming that Biden added so many jobs, and his unemployment rate finished at about the same percent, 3.4%, as Trump supposedly by 2023. And this is according to Reuters and PolitiFact. So you guys can quote and double check your statistics and let me know what's out there. But I do feel like the Biden economy was an economy that jumped back on the bandwagon of getting the economy reopened. And that's when the hiring began. And also these numbers have been taken during the time of holidays where more hiring happens with UPS, FedEx, and all these stores. Now, inflation and interest rates, this is where the Biden administration and the Trump administration really differ, because the inflation under the Biden administration skyrocketed, and the biggest killer of all economies and the biggest killer of countries is inflation. Look at Venezuela. I've seen videos of Venezuelans shoveling money with a shovel into the trash because their money is not valued in anything, and it's because of socialism and crazy inflation. And Venezuela was one of the most prosperous countries some 30, 40 years ago. It's beautiful. It had a lot going for itself. And then with socialism and liberalism, it killed itself. But inflation was low with Trump. Now, here's what the crazy thing is. Donald Trump, who stimulated the economy by giving the money back to the corporations and the people, only had a 2% inflation average, all right, around the 3 years. That's super low and incredible considering the fact that he stimulated the economy by giving more power to the people. The low interest rates also helped with that, all right, because people were able to borrow. They were able to borrow money cheap and reinvest into the economy. You could borrow money cheap and then even put it in the stock market and make money, right? Which is great. People did borrow money to go into the stock market during that time and have come out on top. The Biden administration, however, has messed everything up. As I mentioned earlier in this special episode of the Ideal Hour, said, hey, groceries are up around 40%. Gas is up, your taxes are up, your overall spending, your rent is up, your insurance is up, your overall cost of living is through the roof. Materials are up. When was the last time you took your wife, significant other, partner out to a restaurant and saw a bill that's around $50? It rarely happens anymore unless you get an appetizer and water. And you'd be lucky to come out for a dinner for two under $150 nowadays. It's kind of crazy with 2 glasses of wine. And that's what I'm talking about. Biden's inflation is at a 40-year high. And of course, they try to raise the interest rates. But even with the rising interest rates, 40-year high on inflation, it's one of the highest inflations, if not the highest inflation that we've ever seen in this country. And it has the potential to do what it's done to Venezuela. So again, why am I bringing up Biden in a Biden-Harris versus Trump debate, or Harris versus Trump? Because Harris, during this time, was vice president for 3.5 years. And that's what happened with the economy. They wanted to raise your taxes. The inflation grew out of control. So what do you think is going to happen in the next 4 years? It's going to be more of that. You don't want that. So for me, I don't want that. And that's why I am pushing for a Trump ticket this time around. And I'm hoping Donald Trump really brings us back to realistic interest rates, or better interest rates, economy boosting ones, and inflation curbs where we can somehow not feel like the money that we've saved, the money that we do have, is going to be valued in the future, right? Where your kids, my kids, would be able to afford a house, where an average home is no longer, $400,000. And by the way, homes jumped during the Biden administration from 240 or so thousand, I don't know the exact number, to over $400,000 as an average. That's crazy. And then on top of that, if the inflation continues, that home's not going to stay at 400 something thousand. It's going to jump to 6, 7, 800,000, and good luck to your kids buying property. Stock market performance. Trump saw one of the strongest stock market performances, with the S&P 500 rising 1,050 points during his first 3 years. His corporate tax cuts, his regulatory agenda spurred investor confidence. Even though the market suffered with some initial dips during the pandemic, it quickly recovered. Biden also has seen a great stock market, so I'll give you guys that, which Biden-Harris is not a, it's not a bad thing here. Also a 988 point increase. So the stock market under both administrations has done really well. The difference you have to say and go, well, if they're so bad at economy, why is the stock market so similar? Well, the problem becomes inflation. So even though the stock market during the Trump was better than Biden's, but they're close, the inflation during the Biden-Harris administration has led the gains on the stock market not as valuable, because the dollar doesn't stretch as far. You have to understand that. Once you understand that the dollar is not valued the same, it doesn't matter what the stock ticks to. It would have to double Trump's stock gains to maybe even triple to get to the level of the dollar value that Trump's stock market increase with only a 2% inflation had done. And that's why I'm again giving the point to Donald Trump's policies and his continued policies over the Biden-Harris, or in this time Harris campaign. So let's talk about the big one. I think this one is even bigger and kind of ties into the policies of economy, okay? We're going to talk about immigration, labor force impact. As you guys know, they call her the border czar. This is the Republican term for it, Kamala Harris. Now, she has open borders. She's barely been to the border. In fact, there's a clip of her getting called out for not ever going to the Mexico border.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
As you could see, she goes, I haven't been to Europe either. Well, this is a problem because immigration under Trump has declined. People weren't coming in here taking advantage of our free hotel systems, our money. It's $28,000 per illegal immigrant in America to house them here. We've paid for their hotels. They've flooded a lot of different hotels, New York streets. Crime has gone up. People have been killed, raped by illegal immigrants that have done this several times. On top of that, they've brought drugs, guns, who knows what kind of weapons, who knows what kind of criminals have come in, who knows what kind of terrorists have come in. They've caught terrorists from Iran, from other areas as well. But they've also obviously not caught many terrorists. Now, I've had Navy SEALs on this podcast. They said, hey, there's sleeper cells in America waiting to strike at any moment, which is freaky and scary. And I do believe that to be true, because when you don't know who's coming into this country, then you really don't know who's here, okay? And if you haven't vetted these people and they've come here illegally, which is a big term, I don't care if you think they're legal by right of as a human being to be here. They are here illegally based on our policies of law. That means that makes them commit a crime upon entering and making it illegal, even though they're seeking asylum. And the Biden administration has canceled some of Trump's asylum stay-at-place policies, which is crazy. Biden-Harris, I should say. But you're here illegally. You're illegal. That's it. There's no ifs, ands about it. You didn't follow the proper protocol to enter here. Now, under the Biden-Harris administration, over 2 million border crossings per year. I think that number's way higher. They say it's like 6 million, 8 million. I think it's 15 or more million. We don't know who's here. And they've overflooded the school systems, which means schools aren't getting the same quality education for your kids in these systems.
912 right now in a news alert out of New York City. Students are being forced to learn online as nearly 2,000 migrants move into their school.
This has enabled crazy child and human trafficking with illegal immigration, and the Biden-Harris administration has done nothing to stop it. The Border Patrol has endorsed Trump completely, saying that the Biden administration has done nothing. And these are, a lot of them are Hispanic people that work there, because they have to speak Spanish to talk to all the people that are coming in from all these countries, from Honduras, Guadalajara, Peru. They're coming from all over, and it's not just Latin countries, which is crazy. Not just Mexico and so forth. They're coming over from China. They're coming from Iran, Russia. They're coming from all these countries, Africa, to really take over the American way, the American dream, and what people aren't realizing is they're afraid to hurt somebody's feelings, but in reality, these people are going to come in. They're going to drain your financial economy. They're going to take the money that you could be getting for support for people that do live here, that have been living here, generational families. They're going to flood the school systems. Then they're going to take over politics. They're going to start voting their way because it's to their advantage. They're going to vote out your policies that have worked in America, and they're going to put in their policies that they feel is better. They're going to put in whatever laws, whether it be Sharia law or whatever laws that they have that they feel would be appropriate, that's going to be voted in. Trump's policies restricted illegal immigration. It resulted in much fewer border crossings. In fact, some of the lowest during any of the past administrations. And it prevented people from taking advantage of the American system. The Biden administration was just an open border policy, in my opinion. It forced people to start paying for these people. It overflooded the police and local networks to manage these people. It overflooded the shelters in place where people that were homeless could not get shelter, and now illegal immigrants coming in cannot get shelter. It had, here's another fun fact, or I should say a horrible fact. The children that are lost during this administration, the Harris administration, I think lost somewhere around 200,000, or is it 2 million children? Something crazy. Comment below and correct me. But they've lost, they don't know where these kids are that have come across the border. A lot of these kids that come across the border don't have a sponsor, or the sponsor is not vetted, I should say, and they're just going to some random person's house, and who knows for when, they're never heard from again. Not good. That is a big, big problem. And that's why I think Trump wins, because of immigration being one of the most failed things that the American government has done in, I would say, the last several decades. The open border policies, and I will say it here, are the biggest threat to America, the people that live in America, the people that have been living here 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, whatever, to the economy long term, to the stability of the American way long term. And these people aren't going to assimilate. They're going to take over. They're going to take every single drop of American resources to their advantage, and they're going to ride that. And the thing is, these politicians, they're doing it. My opinion, obviously, the Harris-Biden administration are doing it for votes. They don't want voter ID. They don't want people to be carded to vote. I don't get it. You need to be carded to board an airplane, to get a loan, to walk into a federal building, to walk into a state building. You have to have a valid ID in most cases. To get a loan, forget about it, right? You need to have ID. Even a driver's license is kind of mandatory to drive a car, right? But to vote, you don't need it. And why is that? Because, well, the people that are coming over, they're not going to rule for Trump's policies. They're going to switch it up and vote for Harris. And the reason they're going to do that is because she's given everything for free. So why wouldn't they? So Trump again wins in that. Comment below if you agree. It's just not a good thing, in my opinion, to allow open borders without really knowing who's coming in. That's not contributing to the society. The one thing I should mention, open borders also go back to the economy. When Trump was giving an interview, he said, hey, the people that are coming over, they're coming for jobs. They're going to come for people that have hard labor jobs, low income jobs, middle class jobs, even eventually high net worth jobs. Some people that are coming over are going to be successful. Some are going to be drug dealers. Some people are going to do good. Some are going to do bad, etc. But they're coming for the jobs of the people that are here. The epidemic with the drugs and the people that are dying off fentanyl, that's all as a cause of the open border policies that are continuously open. If you could sneak in children that are bigger packages than like a fentanyl bag or whatever, you could sneak anything into this country. And that is scary. And the drugs are pouring in here, pouring because of open border policies. And that's affecting your communities. And then all the jobs that are going to go to those legal migrants are going to also affect your financial community. So you be prepared for that. Some states are even more ridiculous. They're encouraging so much illegal immigration that they're giving them interest-free loans, 0 down payment home purchases. If you're illegal, free healthcare, money every month. When on earth have you, who love this country, have been paying all your taxes, or just really fought for this country, when have you been told you're getting a 0 interest-free loan just because? Because you're what? Legal? It's crazy. Illegal? It doesn't make sense. So that's my take on it. I really don't like the fact that that the Harris campaign has continuously ignored the border, and they said that they're doing something about the border, but they're not. Okay, and I think it's going to kill America. So hopefully you choose based. Maybe if you're undecided and you hear my points, and you make the informed decision, you understand that when you're making a vote this year, you're making a vote not only for the future of the next 4 years, but the long term of what is acceptable and what's not in terms of the American way. All right, let's take a look here. So in conclusion, if we're going to pick somebody today and we're undecided, obviously I'm voting for Trump. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but do your research. You have one man who was a billionaire who saw problems in America as a billionaire, decided to tackle those problems, put his family in jeopardy. His whole family has received the worst threats. And they have a beautiful family. You look at Trump's family, beautiful family, very clean, traditional, but just a beautiful family. They look like well-mannered. You have this billionaire that came into politics, put his family, himself at risk, got indicted so many times, for such crazy things where other Biden, for example, got dismissed for having the same type of things. He had files in his home, I think in Connecticut or wherever in Delaware, and next to his Corvette, no problem. It was top classified. He wasn't even president at the time when he had those files, and that's okay. And they said he's not cognitively there. Another thing you should say is we've kind of been lied to. They've been saying that Biden is fit for office. He's fit. And then at the last minute, they pull a bait and switch on the population and say, Biden is not fit to run. He's not going to win. He's too old, or he's not cognitively there. So they put Harris in play. Harris never got elected by anybody. She didn't have to do any runoffs to do any type of politics, political runoffs where she and other potentially great Democratic candidates could have voiced how they plan to change the country, how they plan to see things move forward. And the reason that happened is because they're controlling these individuals, and they don't want anyone to deviate from the norm and from their decision making. So they're putting someone in charge, in my opinion, which they did in this case by dumping Biden backdoor and putting Harris in charge without any vote and without anyone really electing her to be the front runner of the Democratic Party. And that is insane. There's another thing. There's a theory, obviously, that Obama has some type of run in all of this. Well, I would agree with that.
You know what? If I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that because I found the work fascinating.
Obama says if I can be in charge but have someone stand there as a front man or like a puppet, and I would recite my lines and tell them what to say, I would do it. And guess what's happening? That is what's happening now. You see teleprompter Harris coming up and reading the lines, and when that teleprompter goes off, she doesn't understand anything.
So 32 days. 32 days. Okay, we got some business to do. All right. 32 days.
So I will take Donald Trump personally over a lot of candidates, and I like the fact that I also liked Robert Kennedy Jr. He was a great guy. He's about health. I love the fact that he supported Trump, and I love the fact that Trump's now supporting him, and they're going to work together. Then you have Tulsi Gabbard, I believe that's her last name. She seemed reasonable coming out from the past primaries, and she's supporting Trump. Then you have Elon Musk, who I hope supports Trump till the end because he has the Silicon Valley's ear. And I think enough is enough. He's seen what happened to Democratic policies in San Francisco. So all of these spinning things have potentially put Trump in office or will. But Trump didn't need this fight. He could have been on his yacht. He came to make America better. Versus the opposite. These politicians that make $100,000 to $200,000 in salary, all of a sudden are making the best stock trading bets there are, and now their net worths are 200, 300 million. How is that possible, right? Of course, it's only possible through deceit and doing something more than just collecting that $200,000 salary. So you have to question these things. Anyway, for those reasons of no wars, better interest rates, less taxes, better grocery costs, better inflation, more secure. And I don't think Trump did enough on the border either. He didn't finish the wall, dealt with the crazy pandemic, but he could have done better. He could have selected a better team. I think this time he will. But that border is probably the single scariest thing in my opinion, because you could adjust interest rates, but it's very hard to adjust how many people have come into this country with bad intentions. And bad intentions are anywhere from bringing in drugs, taking advantage of the system, trafficking, you name it, terrorism. That's the border for you. Depleting the U.S. economy of its resources and depleting the citizens of America from those resources, because now you're feeding 8 million more people. It's going to be hard to kick him out. I don't know how Trump's going to do it. He said he's going to do it. Do I believe it? I don't know, but I hope he does. It's not going to be without a fight, right? But overall, his core policies are much better for your living situation and your family than Kamala Harris's policies by far. And that's why I am voting for Trump. And I hope you vote for Trump as well, but you have to make your own decision on who's going to be a better fit for you. All I ask is, before that vote, you consider what's better for you in the economy in America versus what's better for the image, what's better for the false claim. Do you really believe that the next 4 years are going to be better with Kamala in office than these 4 years? And I don't think you could honestly, if you're pro-Kamala, answer yes to that, given the fact that so many things have gone in a direction that's going to affect you even further in a negative, especially in your pockets, down the road if she wins. And if Trump wins, he has to reverse a lot of these bad decisions made by the government. And I think it could be done. Finally, the one thing I hope that gets fixed is the weaponization and potential cheating. The weaponization of the law system. That has to be addressed. No party, whether it's Republican, Democrats, or independents, none of them should be able to use such a force of the government to attack any candidate, any past candidate, etc. It just should not happen based on opinions and political beliefs. It should not be allowed. It should not be tolerated. The judges should not be swayed by their politics. In fact, I think the judicial system is so flawed that if you have a judge that leans one way and then you have a judge that leans another way, you're going to have two different opinions, verdicts on the same facts out there. And that's scary. A judge could have a bad Monday. A judge could hate Trump. A judge could hate people from Manhattan. A judge could hate Jews. A judge could hate Arabs, whatever. It doesn't matter. And because of that, he could sway and vote or rule against the person just because of feeling. You know, just like in prize fighting or boxing or whatever, there are 3 judges. In the appeals court, there are 3 judges. But we should have big cases presented, not with one judge in charge. Because when you have one judge in charge and that judge has some type of bias, and there has been proven bias in the Trump cases, then the legal system loses its credibility and it loses its effectiveness in people believing that it's trustworthy and it's valid and so forth. So a judge should not have this much power, should not have this much rule set to sway a prosecution or even a defense. And on top of that, what really scares me about some of these trials is the juries. If you're in California, you're going to get a left jury. That's what happens. If you're in Manhattan, you're going to get a left jury. In New York, if you're in Florida, most likely you'll get a right jury. Texas, the same thing. I'm not saying either one is right or wrong, but there's no fairness in it. And that just goes back to what I said earlier. Depending on how you're leaning in your political spectrum, if the judge is affected by that, and they shouldn't be, it's game over. You have facts, you have 2 judges with 2 different perspectives on whether or not they like this party or this person and that person. They're going to rule 2 different ways. And that is scary. So that legal system has to be fixed. And I hope Trump fixes the legal system as well, so that never another candidate is scared to go up and challenge anyone for any type of candidacy because they're afraid of being politically attacked and drowned with legal fees. Finally, voting. Voting needs to be also addressed, in my opinion, on this special episode of The Ideal Hour. And I didn't think I could pull an hour, but I did it. If you vote and you vote in person, they're going to verify you, etc. If it's a machine voting, Elon Musk said this recently, machines can be manipulated. very true because he built software. I mean, this guy launches rockets and they come back. He saved the people in space several times or once. He's done it all, right? Created big businesses. Smart guy. But he says machines could be manipulated. And I strongly believe that if you have software and you say, hey, for every one vote or X vote for Trump, do a 1.001 vote for Kamala. Boom, software enters it, makes up names, etc. You name it. That's scary. So if there is no more integrity in elections, then this is not a democracy. This is not political free choice, and it's not what the people want. And that to me is frightening. And I think that has to be addressed by both parties because both parties can cheat. And if one cheats and the other party does nothing, that's not good. It'll force them to cheat next time. And then the other party will now, there's no integrity. It should be fair, honest, and the right person should win for the best interest of America. In my opinion, again, that best person this time around and last time is Donald Trump. Even celebrities like The Rock recently have come out and said it. I couldn't believe he voted for Biden in the past. But this time around, you really gotta just think who will set the policies that will better you and your family situation and your business, and that's Donald Trump. And I hope that he is elected. There you have it, folks. The 1 hour special politics episode. I might get killed in some comments because the hate is real for each side, but I've given you reason, not whether or not I support everything one candidate or the other candidate says. I may not agree with everything Donald Trump says. I may definitely not agree with everything that Kamala says, but the policies I can agree with Donald Trump's because I know how it affects the economy and a business owner. The things I see from people just coming across the border here in California and neighborhoods changing and so forth, going to your local grocery store and people not even speaking English and not even caring to do so, not learning to assimilate to this country and its values, it's frightening. The fact that the borders are open and drugs are coming in is scary. The fact that borders are open and kids are missing, that's scary. The fact that borders are open and people are coming for your job, which they will, that's scary. The fact that borders are open and people are coming here and enjoying free hotel stay while veterans and homeless people are on the street is scary. The fact that borders are open and you don't know if terrorists have come in and they could plan a 5-10 man operation to hurt people, that's frightening. And not vetting any of these people is extremely ridiculous. And it's just really weird. And it really questions the whole concept of vaccinations, who's good and bad, control, and just the reasons for it. And we all kind of know the reasons, and that's probably for the votes. And that's also, in my opinion, cheating. So there you have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this 1 hour special. Interesting next 2 weeks coming up. I hope I go to sleep that night seeing my candidate that I picked win. Last time I did that, I went to sleep that night seeing Trump winning miraculously in all the swing states, only to wake up to him losing, as if mail-in ballots overnight came in and just completely killed him. And I think that was one of the gravest possible shady moments in American history with politics. That's what I think. I don't agree with January 6th or any of that, but, I just think people are fed up. Obviously, I wouldn't be there, but I think something's going on and both parties need to be adults and fix it. Donald Trump, hope you win. If you do, I'd love to meet you one day. And you never know. Things could always happen. Appreciate it. God bless you guys. Thank you for listening. Subscribe if you like it. Comment below. And I'll see you guys next time.